Good morning, welcome all. So, my topic would be on hair follicle and ROS. So, the ROS has dual relationship with the hair follicle modulation. So, this is a bimodal relationship or biphasic. There is two phases which ROS has over the hair follicle growth and inhibition. So, it will be on that. So, basically, hair fall is a disorder. It is a benign disorder, but over the course of time, it changes to chronic, and there are many factors associated with this. It is a multifactorial disorder, and one such factor is the ROS, and it behaves in a bimodal way. So, let me first give an introduction of the hair follicle, and then we'll go on with the process on how ROS works with respect to the hair follicle. So, firstly, hair follicle is an appendage of skin, and it can be called as pilosebaceous unit. The hair follicle has a sebaceous gland as well as erector pili muscle. The sebum production, it depends with the age and gender, and the location of the hair is placed. And also the hair follicle has three phases. One is anagen, the second is catagen, third is the telogen. Anagen is the growth phase which prompts the growth of the hair follicle from the hair shaft, whereas catagen is the cessation or the inhibition phase where the hair tends to fall in the growth. It is the phase between the growth and the resting stage. It is almost like a lag phase, whereas telogen is the resting phase. The phase that happens before the hair fall. So the resting phase can also be considered as stationary phase or the phase that rests for some time among the three phases. So in these three, anagen phase codes for almost 2 to 6 years, whereas catagen phase as for few weeks, and catagen as for around 10 to 15 days, whereas telogen phase codes for around 3 to 4 weeks. And this also changes with the different location of the body of the where the hair is placed. And few of the signaling pathways such as Wnt beta catenin, BMP TGF beta SMAD, and PI3K pathway, MAP kinase, all these are involved in these phases of hair follicles. So this is the cyclic phase. So one, it goes from anagen to catagen and telogen. The upper portion, the upper portion is called the permanent portion, whereas the lower is called the cyclic portion. The cyclic portion or the lower portion, it fluctuates between different stages, and during the early anagen phase, we can see there is a different bulge or growth in the cyclic domain of the hair follicle, whereas this one is the dermal papilla, and it induces the matrix over here in the cyclic region or the region that fluctuates over the course of the phases. The dermal papilla actually induces the matrix, which consists of the epidermal stem cells. It induces the matrix over here, and then the growth happens during the anagen phase. Whereas as it like we can see in the full anagen phase, where the matrix is reduced over here and the hair is formed by the production of increased keratinocytes and all that. And over that, the catagen phase, we can see a reduction. When the anagen turns to catagen, the matrix component is reduced. Dermal papilla also ceases the growth of other cells, and then finally it regresses and goes to the telogen phase, where everything is in the resting stage or the quiescent stage. Telogen phase can be also called the quiescent stage, which when a prompt is given, when any signaling is given to the telogen phase, it can readily move to the anagen growth phase. And here and during these phases, during this region is where ROS plays a role. During the anagen to, like this is the phase, and these two are the phase where ROS plays a role, from anagen to catagen and from telogen to anagen. So when the ROS plays a role, when ROS prompts from the anagen to catagen, we can call that as the inhibitory effect of the ROS. Whereas when the ROS prompts the phase from telogen to anagen, we can call that as stimulatory effect. So these two can be seen at different levels, and also different levels of ROS and different physiological condition um, of the scalp air. Basically, this all is done in the scalp air. So, but there are other parts of body, and different the faces and everything was different in that. But mostly in research papers which I have seen is regarding the scalp air. So, so nextly, next slide is regarding the ROS as growth promoter. So basically, during the course of evolution, the human body has adapted to use ROS in a separate way. Like it has made antioxidants to inhibit the ROS, to scavenge the ROS, and also the physiological aspect of our body has made uh, some adaptation towards the stress. So it is also called as hormesis effect, where a moderate level of stress can be adapted by our body and it makes it useful. So in this case, our body uses the ROS in such a way that it overcomes the negative effect of the ROS. So in this research work, what they have done is they have cultured the keratinocytes, which are basically the cells that forms the air shaft. So they have cultured immortalized keratinocytes, and they have added photosensitizer. A photosensitizer is a compound which absorbs the light at some wavelength and exits at some other wavelength. So in this case, they have used blue light, which will be in the wavelength of around 400 to 500 nanometer, 430 to 495 nanometer, and then it irradiates in the wavelength of 600 to 700 nanometer. So this, the amino labulinic acid is the photosensitizer they have used it here. And what happens, it ultimately gives, okay, so the photosensitizer gives some of the ROS, and that will be prompting the growth of air follicle. And some of the antioxidants like ascorbic acid and N-acetylcholine have abolished this effect. And at the end, they have seen SRC kinase, which comes in the MAP kinase pathway, and the phosphorylation of tyrosine 460 residue, and transcription and activation of the prolactin family of growth factors. So this is the downstream effector of something. When they have induced the ROS, they have seen this as the downstream effector. So moving on to the next, the induction of ROS by Wnt pathway. So this is another research paper where they have mentioned the Wnt signaling is the major cause of which ROS induces the air follicle stimulation. So the ROS activates Wnt pathway. In which way it activates? So over here we can see the ROS inhibits the P10. P10 is a phosphatase, and it actually inhibits the PI3K kinase by adding the phosphate group. So when ROS inhibits the P10 phosphatase, it ultimately relieves the PI3K, and PI3K can activate something called AKT, which is a upstream regulator of GSK3 beta. So all this three is called as degradation complex, which ultimately degrades the beta catenin. So when there is no when this is eliminated by AKT with the help of ROS, what happens? The beta catenin is free to go through the nucleus, and then the downstream effector molecules are activated, which in turn activates the hair follicle proliferation and all that. This is the like pathway how the hair follicle, how the Wnt pathway, how the ROS activates the Wnt pathway and in turn finally leads to the proliferation. So, yes, sir. Okay. So, okay, um, so I'll just take one more minute. So I'll just. Okay, so they have used another hydrogen matrix which is implemented with gallic acid and antioxidant, and they have found the hair follicle formation. So by this way, we can say this is a way to say that ROS could be a growth inhibitor, and okay. So this is the one you're saying, right? So like, how does it specifically by Wnt pathway? By Wnt, I've shown you this one. So there's also one more slide in the last. So there are like 2-3 papers which says ROS stimulates hair follicle growth, the proliferation of cells through the Wnt pathway. So it activates the Wnt pathway, but there are other pathways as well, but majorly Wnt pathway is what it's activated. So when they have used inhibitors for the beta catenin, it regresses. But ROS stimulates the beta catenin, so that's how it goes. So it is like that. Here they have seen in 2 or 3 papers, they have seen H2O2 to be like major activating thing, and I don't think like it could be, but I'm not sure. H2O2 is the major activating thing, and also the intensity on which the intensity also matters. So the more excessive, it's definitely going to be damaging and causing apoptosis. But the minimal level can stimulate the Wnt pathway and goes for the cell proliferation. So it will be like that. In the third slide, you mentioned that allergen to catagen is inhibitory effect of ROS, and catagen to telogen it is having stimulatory. No. Telogen to anagen, it has the second one. Telogen to anagen, it has the stimulatory effect. So that is for enhancing like hair growth. The process. So is it possible to reverse it? Like in case like that phase, if we try to reverse it, the stimulatory will help inhibit. Is it possible to reduce hair growth? Like in certain cases, like waxing and all of the phases we go through. Is it possible to not have hair on other, like not on head, but other places? So is it possible to modulate that using the reverse thing of ROS that you mentioned? Yeah, maybe I guess it could be done by over application of ROS, but there could be other negative side effects of that, because here in this case, basically, the inhibitory effect is seen when the ROS is at the more higher end, and the stimulatory effect. It regresses. Yeah. But also in the case, this is related with the wound healing, so that part as well. So when considering that, there will be macrophages and those things, type of macrophages, M1, M2, pro-inflammation, everything would be in the part. So if we use for hair removal, I think we might get some negative side effects if we use ROS as something for regressing our hair growth. I think that also this is done only on the scalp hair. So ants and legs hair will be in the different thing. They are called vellus hair, and there are like certain types of hair. So but yeah, I guess we can do that, but we should be facing some other negative side effects of the ROS application. Type of ROS. Yeah, basically, like as far as I've read, it's the uh, concentration and also the physiological state. Like, is it wound that formed it, or just the normal physiological aspect? All that comes into H2O2. Yeah. Mm. Uh, yeah, it could be big. The thing is, the dermal. Uh, the thing is, dermal papilla is one of the most mitotically active cells of any organ. So, dermal papilla, and the other one is lining of the intestines. So, like that's the reason why we give chemo drugs. These two will be the one to get affected, the gastrointestinal lines and the dermal papilla, and so the air fall thing. So that is why I think it is related with the cell proliferation wilt pathway, and by stimulating, uh, I think it also depends on the concentration. I guess it depends upon the concentration, because yeah, like macrophage, if it's pro-inflammatory, there are possibility for higher cell proliferation and all that. But yeah, it could be, there is a possibility, but it will be on the concentration based, I guess. uh, like human usage, no, I to understand, and basically regarding the wound healing perspective and how to reduce the inhibitory effect of ROS using antioxidants as like subcutaneous application of some biomaterials. Like with that perspective, they have studied, and not in the usage, but maybe it is good way for the usage of ROS as some topical application or something. So, huh. No, they are using the hydrogel to prove that ROS has some negative effect to it. That is a paper where they have used not only ROS, but it's like a wound healing related paper. So they have used implemented gallic acid, which is an antioxidant, into the hydrogel, and they are placed subcutaneously in the dorsal skin of the mouse. Like they have both, they have cultured, and they have also kept in the dorsal skin of the mouse, and they have seen that the wound healing properties, hair follicle formation when they kept the antioxidant. So they are saying this could attenuate ROS and promote the hair growth. That is for saying the inhibitory effect of ROS. Mm. It is related to age also, age and type of cells present over the area, and how much it is affected, and all that. Huh. Huh. Erus, Erustism, yeah, they can also try, I guess. But that is a genetic disorder, no? I'm not sure. Genetic disorder, right? So, might other factors might be in that way, but we can, like, there could be some research done previously. We can check it out.